Science shouldn't feel like a closed door. Welcome to Human Verified, your backstage pass to the world of high-stakes research and the business of staying alive. My name is Gina Winchester, a Native American scientist, professor, author, and I've created this space where we swap dense academic jargon for fresh, no-nonsense insights. Whether I'm deconstructing pharmaceutical breakthroughs, clinical trials, or the how this is legal side of STEM business, I'm here to bridge the gap between the lab bench and your daily life. It's rigorous research met with real-world storytelling because understanding how science works is the ultimate power move. Data is killing our water supply and draining electricity. Water is life. Native American culture holds water as deeply sacred. Mother Earth gives it to us, and we carry an obligation to care for her. Across the USA, various tribes actively protest and oppose the rapid growth of data centers. For instance, the Seminole Tribe of Oklahoma and the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa recently passed legislation halting data center development on tribal lands. Other tribes strategically evaluate how these facilities impact the environment and everyday life, while some outright protest their presence in remote, arid regions. This issue has caught fire because everything has changed over the last 15 to 20 years. In the past, data centers operated as quiet warehouses full of computers that hosted basic websites, ran emails, and stored cloud files. They drew about as much electricity as a regular office building and stayed cool with standard air conditioning. Tucked away in suburban office parks, they plugged into the local power grid without anyone really noticing. Today, these facilities constantly churn through staggering amounts of data in real time, which forces the computers to run scorchingly hot and demand an unbelievable amount of electricity. This shift sparks a raging debate over whether the technological benefits outweigh the severe costs to our communities. The core problem centers on consumption. A single modern data center consumes vast amounts of power and water, though some argue its footprint compares to a single large restaurant in the United States. This leaves us questioning the right path forward. On the energy side, tech demands force utility companies to revive dirty, damaging practices to generate enough power. Because of how utilities operate, companies pass those infrastructure bills directly back on local families, causing everyday household electricity rates to skyrocket. The water crisis is even more immediate. To keep hot computers from melting down, data centers rely on cooling systems that guzzle up to 5 million gallons of water every single day. On top of that, the power plants generating their electricity burn through millions more gallons to produce steam. This creates a harsh double whammy for the environment, especially as these tech campuses expand into rural areas and directly compete with local farmers for fragile groundwater. While data centers could consume more than a single restaurant, the comparison reminds us that we should probably scrutinize restaurant consumption too, as two wrongs don't make a right. For the average citizen, location determines just how unfairly this really is. Just 10 states absorb 70% of all the pollution these data centers cause, with Texas and Virginia leading the pack. On the other side of the spectrum, in states like California, a clean energy grid allows the tech industry to create wealth with very little local pollution. Then in states like North Dakota or Wyoming, which rely heavily on fossil fuels, the local environmental damage can outpace any economic benefit. Yes, constructing these multi-acre sites creates temporary jobs, but the finished facilities run almost entirely on automation and might only employ 50 permanent staff members. This leaves local towns wondering if giving these huge tax breaks to tech giants was really worth the nonstop noise, broken power grids, and dry wells. Today's editorial will not take a definitive position. Instead, I will explore what data centers actually do and unpack the critical issues surrounding their power and water use. We will close by examining how the tech industry is pivoting in response to these pressing challenges. Okay, what does a data center actually do? Think of a data center as the internet's physical factory. While the cloud sounds like a weightless thing floating in the sky, it actually lives inside heavily guarded warehouses packed with thousands of specialized computers. Strip away all the technical jargon, and these high-tech hubs exist to do just three basic things. Use powerful computer brains to process information, securely store everything from your family photos to giant databases, and use high-speed cables to flash that data directly to your screen the instant you click a link. Remember, the internet never turns off, and the cloud is always running. It's on every one of your devices, even your smart TV. Most processing goes toward cloud services, social media, the finance sector, governments, colleges, and universities. A handful of tech giants like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta have heavily dominated America's digital landscape by running what the industry calls hyperscale facilities. When you examine how these giants carve up our nation's computing power, you see that a few specific daily habits consume a monumental share of our digital real estate. The invisible backbone of modern economy, the enterprise cloud, swallows up nearly half of all data center capacity. Instead of building and maintaining expensive server rooms, the vast majority of American businesses, retail giants, and shipping networks simply rent digital space from Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud. Our collective love for social media and consumer technology places one of the heaviest burdens on our digital infrastructure, claiming roughly a quarter of all data center space. The sheer volume of video data, rather than text messages or basic status updates, eats up this room. Hosting millions of hours of high-definition uploads, powering live streams, and running the complex mathematical formulas that dictate your feed require an astronomical amount of hardware. Consequently, tech titans build sprawling, multi-million square foot campuses across the country just to load your videos instantly and without a stutter. In contrast, the financial sector moves trillions of dollars a day while maintaining a surprisingly small and efficient physical footprint. Accounting for less than a fifth of the nation's computing capacity, banking data consists mostly of numbers and text rather than heavy video files. So it avoids the need for endless digital warehouses. Instead, banking infrastructure prioritizes extreme security, speed, and reliability. Financial institutions rely on heavily fortified private data centers to catch fraud in real time and clear global transactions instantly. To ensure the economy never pauses, they duplicate every single piece of data across multiple states simultaneously, meaning a regional power grid failure won't disrupt your ability to swipe a debit card. The public sector and higher education split just a fraction of America's data center footprint. Government agencies and public utilities claim a modest portion of space to handle everything from IRS tax processing and defense calculations to weather forecasting. This keeps all the sensitive data isolated in a highly secure, regulated federal network. Finally, colleges and universities make up the smallest sliver of the pie. Schools use standard cloud software to run everyday student portals and online classes, and specialized academic research labs create a significant digital footprint. Using supercomputing clusters to crunch massive data sets for climate modeling and genetic sequencing, these labs need that processing power to make the biggest differences in our lives. And then there's the whole AI thing. It's not really a standalone process consuming power, but something that is now embedded in all those processes I just told you about. Okay, people talk about AI prompts and search algorithms, but honestly, it's how AI has revolutionized all software and cloud applications. It has completely rewritten the rules for data centers, trading basic digital storage for a surge in processing power. This computing boom directly shapes our daily social media scrolls, while platforms like TikTok and Instagram still store regular video files. AI now drives the hidden engines that recommend those videos. Instead of showing content in a simple timeline order, complex AI models process thousands of data points in real time to predict exactly what will keep your eyes on the screen. Built-in AI image generators, filters, and translation tools further accelerate this demand, which means AI processing now consumes well over half of the computing power inside social media data centers. Other foundational sectors like banking and higher education are steering this technology pivot in different ways. The financial world still uses traditional databases to keep your account balances perfectly accurate, but it relies heavily on AI to spot fraud in milliseconds and analyze market risks. The impact on real U.S. cities and real people. The sudden explosion of data centers across the country is triggering a localized environmental crisis, hitting Virginia and Texas the hardest. Tech companies flock to these states to exploit electricity rates roughly 30% cheaper than the national average, but a major catch undermines these savings. Because local power grids rely heavily on fossil fuels, the invisible health and environmental damage actually outpaces a lot of the benefits these data centers might provide. Dangerous emissions drift directly into crowded cities like Houston and Dallas, spiking local air pollution and actively harming public health. It drives a severe geographic injustice. While AI profits flow globally, the actual pollution hurts locally. Nationally, the wealth AI generates might easily outweigh the billions of dollars in air and water damage it causes, but this macro-level math completely ignores the families living right next to these facilities. For example, in states like Wyoming, the local environmental destruction actually overpowers any economic value the tech industry brings to the region. Because data centers consume billions of liters of water, they place a heavy strain on local communities, a cost residents refuse to pay. Surprisingly, regional power plants consume most of this water indirectly. They use tremendous amounts of steam just to generate that electricity rather than the data centers using it inside their own walls. This crisis is playing out right now in California, where tech giants build new campuses in low-income agricultural areas already struggling with severe water shortages. This expansion forces corporations to compete directly with local residents for drinking water, threatening community survival during droughts. Evaluating this problem one isolated project at a time completely misses the point. It blinds us to the permanent cumulative damage threatening regional environments and the everyday people who live there. There are a couple ways to cool data centers. Evaporative cooling offers the most common and cheapest solution, acting like a giant industrial sponge. Warm water that absorbs the intense heat from the servers meets the outside air, evaporates into the sky, and disappears permanently. Although this process mimics a human sweat response and slashes electricity bills, it demands a non-stop, staggering supply of fresh water every single day. To slash this heavy waste, some facilities deploy closed-loop systems that function exactly like a car radiator. A set amount of water is sealed inside a network of pipes to absorb server heat, cool down, and loop back around. Though the pipes recycle their internal water, they may still depend on external evaporating towers that consume outside water. Hyperscalers like Google, Microsoft, and Meta deploy this method across their newest warehouses. When building in colder climates, they even shut off their power-hungry artificial chillers during the winter, letting the chilly outside air cool the pipes for free to save electricity without wasting local water. When it comes to changing the environmental blueprint of this boom, the three biggest cloud companies, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, drive the most aggressive structural shifts, moving past basic public relations to focus on serious engineering fixes. Microsoft aims to put more water back into the environment than it uses by the end of the decade. Its newest closed-loop design requires filling just once during the construction, continuously recycling that same water to chill its AI chips. Google focuses heavily on water stewardship and what they call pipe neutrality. Because water cooling improves energy efficiency by about 10% over traditional air conditioning, Google utilizes it but protects communities facing shortages by funding local infrastructure upgrades. They have launched over 165 projects globally to return more fresh water to local ecosystems and public water systems than their data centers consume. On top of that, Google pioneers real-time tracking to ensure local, carbon-free energy sources like wind and solar power their data centers every single hour of the day, matching the energy grid to the exact second an AI model undergoes training. Then, to conquer the brutal heat of modern data processing, some in the industry are pivoting towards direct liquid cooling, placing cold plates directly on top of the computer chips. It sounded like sci-fi just 15 years ago, but it is becoming a standard in all new data center construction. This method relies on specialized fluid that stays trapped inside the pipes indefinitely, circulating around the clock with near zero waste. It comes at a trade-off though. Direct liquid cooling consumes large amounts of power, circling back to the problem of electricity and the dirty methods of making it. Where does this leave us? We have to keep using our voices. It is important to keep pushing back against industrialization because it can run wild and be dangerous. But progression and evolution are vital for our society to move forward. Despite the consequences of social media and the internet, without it, movements like the Arab Spring would never have happened. It has given a voice to the voiceless and a microphone to the oppressed. Hundreds of millions of content creators who would never have had a chance to show their talents can now find their audience with just a phone and a circle light. Data processing has given high-paying, skilled jobs to even more millions of people over the past 20 years and pulled entire communities out of poverty. Its applications have improved national defense, local safety, and personal security. Entire businesses and financial sectors have become more secure and improved the accuracy of all your transactions. If you're old enough to remember how it was pre-internet, then you know what a difference it has made in your everyday life. Especially if you are the first to go to college, the first to have a high-paying job, and the first to escape the poverty that once plagued your family. So balance is key. In my culture, the Potawatomi and the Anishinaabe, balance is a continuous motion and not just a point you reach. Nature and life are always pulling us out of balance, and we must actively strive towards balance. The same is true of our technological progress and our duty to Mother Earth. We have the ability to push forward while also innovating to protect the world around us. It is our duty. It is our burden. We can do it. We just need to keep striving for balance. Water is life. Thank you for spending this time with me today.